every technology improvement in the history normally gets first and foremost to the people that own the technology, know how to use the technology, and the people that are less prepared with the technology are people that do not get the same benefits for a while. McKinsey mentioned in a study recently that I read that by 2030 there's going to be 12 million jobs just in the US alone eliminated by AI. Every individual in your audience listening, they need to be thinking, how can I make myself much more valuable and enhance my skills today to prepare for this change?
All right. I'm here with my buddy, Arturo Oliver. Arturo's got a rich history. And really, the first question I want to ask you, bud, is what got you interested in the intersection of humanity and technology?
Hey, Don. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me into your program. It's really a pleasure and to have this great conversation today. What got me into the intersection of technology and humanity really was from an early age. I grew up in Mexico. Since I was in elementary school, I have a passion for technology. I would read magazines, consume the magazines of technology, and I fell in love with computers since that early age. There was the Commodore 64 and Apple IIe for those in the audience that remember those days. And I got one of the first Apple IIes actually that arrived to Mexico, and I got a book of a basic language programming book. I consumed it like in 3 days, and I was really programming everything. And can you imagine this elementary school kid? I think I had like 11 years old, and I was already doing things, and all the exercises were about accounting and managing companies. I was like, okay, well, so I actually had to sell my computer. I wanted a new one, and I was able to sell it to somebody because I developed a system using Basic to manage his business, right? So I was able to actually get like twice the amount of money because of the work I had done. I'm not sure if it was even legal because I was like underage, but I learned that technology could actually help people, right? And I fell in love of how computers could help us automate certain things that and make our lives better in general, right? So that was my first encounter with technology.
Mm. I mean, such a rich experience to be young and seeing like how what you could build with that tool could help another person either get their work done or make their life better.
Absolutely. So after I helped that way, I went into middle school, and I was thinking, I was already thinking what I wanted to study, and I started reading books about robotics and automation at that age, and so I decided to go and pursue a major in computer engineering, which was a mix of computer science and digital electronics. One of my most memorable projects was actually working on creating a robot, creating the operating system, like basically building from spare parts, like print all printers and what have you, like getting all the pieces. And it was a great experience, right? Like to be able to build such a thing, with just your learning, right? What I was learning at that time, and really, that's what I went, and that's when I started. After graduating my professional life, I decided I want to do something that changes the world, and I wanted to work for a company that would create software that would help the world. And that's how I started my career.
That is incredible. So let's fast forward to today, right? Like
Yeah.
we're in a time of change.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like this is one of those moments. I remember I was sitting in a Vanguard conference with like there was, I think, 300 people. It was the executives of Vanguard, and the chief economist got up on stage and was talking about, and this is probably 2010 now that I think about it, gets up on stage and starts talking about the information age and how in every other industrial revolution or agricultural revolution, it created hockey stick moments for growth in the world.
Yeah.
And what also was pretty prevalent is there was always this like initial blip where it would go up and then you'd have some sort of plateau and then the trough of disillusionment would hit, in which we had all these high hopes of the technology. It just didn't meet that. It wasn't ready. And so you get into this trough of disillusionment where people are like, nah, it's not really there. But then you again get that further exponential growth that happens. And we saw this with the internet around like the year 2000,
Yeah.
where everybody thought it was going to happen. And then the internet hit that. I kind of feel like we're in that space for AI as well. And so my question is like, what do you see? What are your thoughts around this? And like, how do we see this impacting both our personal lives and professional lives?
That's a great question, Don, and I'm very passionate about my 30 years, which I have now, as of last week anniversary, has been really a career in analytics, AI, and automation. So these technologies that are right now converging, right, to really bring these productivity levels that you're talking about. And you're right. Like, I'm a firm believer, and I have seen there's data, if you study the economics and the productivity data, that tells you how, every 20 years or so, there's spikes in productivity that are caused by a new technology. You mentioned the internet. That was a great example. Uh, I think that right now, the AI technology that we're experiencing, especially with the Gen AI, is giving us that step function into productivity. I think what is different this time is that it is a technology that is bringing automation and is bringing significant change to a wider set of industries, a wider set of roles, and is actually allowing to automate a big amount of work, right? So the impact of this technology this time, I think, is going to be the greater that we have seen in, I would say, probably in 50 years. I think the next decade we'll see that step function. I'm honestly believe that we could see a whole percentage point of sustained productivity growth in addition to other causes, just because of AI. And I'm being probably conservative here. So I totally agree with you. I think that we are, and this is very exciting for me. I think this level of productivity will help society in a number of ways. It will make the human jobs more, pleasant, right? It will make people much. I mean, the productivity, in a way, will liberate us to do other things, and I think that companies hopefully take this cue, right, and governments take this cue as well, because I would love to see companies delivering more with the same number of employees and being so happy that they say, Fridays, we're going to take half Friday off, or why not eventually full Friday off, right? Work 4 working weeks, and also try to make sure that these benefits get to a wide variety of people. I think that there's a lot of exciting things that could come, but then there's also the other side of the coin as well, right? The other side of the coin is, how do we make sure that everybody gets the first share of the positive impact? And there's unfortunately every technology improvement in the history normally gets first and foremost to the people that own the technology, that know how to use the technology, and the people that are less prepared with the technology are people that do not get the same benefits for a while, right? It takes some time to make it into the system. And I think the level of reskilling that we may need to go through as a society, uh, it's something that we need to look into, right? McKinsey mentioned in a study recently that I read that by 2030, there's going to be 12 million jobs just in the US alone, uh, eliminated by AI, right? So those jobs are not going to come, and although there may be some jobs that will be created, uh, the jobs that are created are not going to be able to go to the same people because they require totally different set of skills. So as a society, we need to prepare for that. And every individual in your audience listening today need to be thinking, how can I make myself much more valuable and enhance my skills today, right, to prepare for this change?
What skills would you say are going to be more valuable in this like AI future?
I think that in I'm going to be an example because I'm in marketing
Okay.
currently, working in marketing in a marketing organization, and I think that there's a lot of things that you can automate, right, in marketing with AI nowadays, from really the analysis of a piece of information to give you clues, from the structure of or a template of what you need to provide, from reviewing some write up that you did, and you can also use different tools, right, in marketing, for example, to automate all the way you create. There's software now that is starting to you put together a design of what you want a web page to look like, right?
Yeah.
And the system will create you the page. It would actually change the look and feel depending on the audience that is hitting, so you can accommodate different personas. And then it can do the AB or ABC, right? A to the N testing to optimize and see which is the one that actually gets better retention, right, of your audience. And you can do this dynamically, right? And you can generate the analytics, and you can self optimize, right? You can even build from their campaigns, social campaigns, and fire those into social media. So there's a lot of automation that is happening that can help, and people will need to orchestrate these things, need to put these tools together, because not single tool is going to help you to do all that. You're going to have to probably use several ones, and everything in this technology is not perfect today, so it's going to continue to improve, and the human hand and the human mind is going to be crucial to orchestrate things despite what people may think. So there's going to be somebody needing that, and if you could be that person, you're going to be 5 times 10 times more valuable to a
Yeah.
company.
I think there's I put this into a category of like there's a couple of activities right now that AI really isn't excelling in. And there's a lot of them, right? Like but for the general purposes, relationships uniquely human,
Yeah.
right? Strategy is one of those areas that I feel like AI isn't quite capable of really hammering in or finding that. But that also plays into the last one, which is creativity.
Yeah.
And so in those three domains, strengthening the muscles that you have in those areas can be very helpful for people in, both having to reskill because we're all going to have to do it. I know in our industry, I have some of my development partners have are seeing about like a 20% price cut
Yeah.
over the last like 6 months because of the efficiency gains that have come out from AI in internal teams. They're looking to companies are looking to external teams less.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Don. I think you hit crucial points here, and that's what I said. Like in terms of strategy, right? Yes, I mean now you can use AI now put some documents, pointed to some your market and some competitors, and say, hey, can you suggest a SWOT for me? What would be my SWOT? And you can read that, and sometimes you get surprisingly very close, right?
Yes.
But you can vary these, do a lot of different versions, depending on the industry, depending on the scenarios, right? And maybe before you could only do one, and
Yeah.
one very thorough, right? SWOT. But now maybe in the same time you can present five different variations, very rich, with a lot of extra, information being considered, plus your own strategy, right? Your own flavor. So what a difference, right? So that those are the things that I think we're gonna go. But every single profession, we can talk here for hours. Every single profession is gonna see some impact of this technology. So it doesn't matter, lawyer. I have the opportunity to work with one particular technology in automation, which is intelligent document processing. It's really like OCR, but to the power of 10, and really ingesting all those unstructured information or semi-structured information and documents, even handwritten documents. And I witnessed how a large insurance company, instead of the traditional way of having people open the envelopes and then type in the computer, they automated everything. So these mail rooms, right, that used to have hundreds of people, now they get reduced to one tenth, and they do things faster. Now that's where you say, what about those people? What's going to happen to those people that were there, right? So everybody right now needs to look at what we do in our daily jobs, right, and think about how much of what we do could be automated, right? and
Yeah.
then and then look how much of what I do I can automate and I can improve, even though you cannot fully automate, with the help of AI technology and other automation technologies. And that's going to be crucial, right? And every week, so myself, I have a practice. Every week, I go to Coursera or LinkedIn or whatever site, and I try to learn one new skill, one new thing, right?
Okay.
So I said myself, instead of watching another hour of Netflix, let's watch another hour and reskill myself, right? Um, and this is going to be key, because I think this is going to be something that we're going to have to do over the next few years, to make sure that we get the benefits, right? We cannot play passively here. We have to take an active role.
I completely agree, and we've got to take a bit of responsibility for our own reskilling, our the ability to kind of like learn. And on the other side, like when I'm talking to college students, really finding it like what drives you, right? Like you talked about, the passion for computers and the passion for technology when you were younger, like that kind of drove you. And I'm sure that like being able to follow that passion has helped you in your career as well. And so like what I tell kids is don't follow the money, follow the passion, because the money will come, and also it's going to make it a lot easier on you if you're passionate about the work that you're doing and the value that you can contribute to helping others out.
That's great advice, Don. And I think that's I have two kids. Well, one, I still call them kids, 24 and 20.
Ah,
Um,
yeah.
uh, but I have to go through universities and how they got pretty much affected by in the post-COVID with Gen AI, etc. And the way I look at it is, I think universities have still to grasp fully the technology, and they need to engage fully and much
Yeah.
more, right? Instead of saying, oh, let's try to see how students don't use Gen AI to cheat on this homework, or exam, they need to reframe the question and see how can we help students become much more skillful, so when they graduate they can use all these tools, new tools. They can use AI to be much more savvy, right? And do better, right? And ignite their passions. I mean, they need to prepare the next level of people that are going to take us into the next step function, right?
Exactly.
And I feel that that is needed. What happened with DeepSeek, right? Of okay, now we're showing the world how you don't need that much money to train models. That's something that could have happened at MIT, Stanford, or any other university. You know, in the US. So I think universities have to take a much more active role now in researching and guiding society into what is the next level of technology that is going to happen, what are the best practices, how to apply, and do that training. So when people come, if you have a young generation of people very broad with the skills, it will help the reskilling of other folks above as well, right? So I totally agree with you there.
And I think there's always two sides of technology, right? Like there's with nuclear, there's the nuclear bomb, there's nuclear energy, right? Like you have both of those, but to just ignore it would be detrimental for everybody. And I think what you're sharing here is that like we've got to come up with a curriculum that actually ties in what technology is capable of. We also have to look at like this stuff is here. There's no way that we're putting it back into the box. And at the same time, humanity and technology have been tied together at the hip since we lit our first fire, since we've rolled our first wheel. It's very difficult to walk back from invention. And so I think you're hitting on a point that's really potent in that like we've got to come up with ways of how do we educate people to use this that isn't just a replacement of a function. And like I saw one professor was saying, I want you to write all your papers with ChatGPT.
Yeah.
But then I also want you to have an addendum to it that highlights where you are critiquing the answer that ChatGPT gave you, because or whatever LLM you're using, because that is also exercising the critical thinking skills necessary to say like, hey, you know what, this is good content, this is bad content, or it's making this up
Yeah.
and it just doesn't make any sense. You need those skills anyways because like you're pretty senior in your career now as well. You're getting information from your reports, you're getting information from outside, and like that's a really crucial skill to be able to process information, to determine like the validity of it, to determine what questions to ask and how it relates to like what you need to accomplish. So I do hope that we find universities adopting this much more, like you were saying with DeepSeek, that was a surprise to anybody
Hmm.
is really showcasing like how narrow-minded we've been
Yeah.
in the solutions, because once you like the mother of invention is constraints
Yeah.
or necessity,
That's
right? But
yeah.
like necessity is a constraint upon the system. And if you're looking at can I just throw more hardware at the problem, then you'll get the solutions that we came up with. But we're gonna run out of power generation. We also are consuming a considerable amount of water for every query that we're running as well. And when you look at the resources needed, DeepSeek was just the natural evolution of how do you go about this. And then comparing, the energy consumption of like, let's say a GPT, DeepSeek to a human brain is terribly more efficient than
Yeah.
both.
Oh yeah.
And even on the training side, the training requirements for like an LLM is essentially all the world's data.
Yeah.
Whereas you and I, we can see an example once, twice, on my bad days, 7 times, right? Like, and learn from it.
Yeah.
Whereas you need tens, thousands of examples of a cat in order for, an LLM to learn about the qualities of a cat, whereas humanity is much more efficient in our ability to synthesize intelligence in ourselves. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I think
so yeah,
yeah, I think that that's a great point, and that's a great point just to say we're not done. We're starting this revolution with AI.
yeah,
We are still have to learn a lot about the brain, about ourselves, how we do things, and this is where universities could play a good role. And for some reason, here in America, we have the tendency to think that everything we throw money, and throwing money at something will give you better, right? Like we go on, if we buy something, we buy the most expensive thing because we think
yeah,
that's the best thing, and we all know that that's not real, right? And DeepSeek proved that point. And so I honestly believe that there's a lot of learning lessons there, and a wake up call for everybody in the world. But it's also exciting to see that that's reducing that cost. You mentioned water and electricity. I live in a place called Loudoun County, which is in Northern Virginia, which happens to be the data center capital of the world. There's 500 plus data centers here, and every single data center and more to come are going to need 10 times the electricity, right?
yep,
Because of all of the AI revolution. And this electricity, where is that going to come from? We don't have the electricity right now. So there's a lot of talks about even small nuclear reactors to be done in the future, and new power lines, etc. But so these are the angles of how technology is impacting society as well. So we need to take a good look into what we do, how we do it, and so if you can make something more efficient, like what DeepSeek proved, that's a great thing, right? So this
yeah,
journey is just getting started. But again, I think it's important and it's imperative for us as a society to make sure that everybody gets
yeah,
benefit by this, and not just a few, as history has illustrated us, right? Because this is going to be a wider and deeper and longer revolution that is going to step up, and that's something that I firmly believe, and I want to be part of it in the future and continue to contribute, just to make sure that we go from follow the right path, right?
exactly. And I think you're hitting on a great point that we've got to be building this stuff for the benefit of society. The benefit of the few is not going to last. We'll definitely see that going. So one last question for you. We're going to go to a 4-day work week, right?
Yeah,
And that maybe it's not even a work week kind
yeah.
of thing, right? Like we look at it differently. What are you going to do with that extra day?
Don, that is an awesome question, and I think it would be a collection of spending time with the family.
Yeah,
More time with the family. I love my family. Spending time with friends. Uh, but why not also continue to reskill yourself? I love learning. I love reading a new book when I have the time. I'm learning a new thing, as I mentioned. So it's going to be a combination of all those things with that free time. But it's going to be fun for sure, and I'm looking forward for it.
I love it. Arturo, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being on the show today.
Thank you, Don. Thank you for having me, and have a great one.
You too.